This is the third and the final talk in my Taipei Medical University Wildfire Lecture Series. It's a trilogy, but I had for a time been a little bit disheartened, considered not completing the final talk. On the one hand, the effects seem to be minimal at best. And on the other hand, for the second talk, quite frankly, very few people went in to take a look at it. But I decided to finish because the student that I mentioned in my first talk, Lin Fengfei, it was probably 35 years ago, I remember quite vividly telling him that we don't have the right to surrender to despair. And I think if he were to reappear now and speak to me, he would advise me, don't despair, that you have an obligation to complete what you started out to do, because there's meaning in it that is intrinsic to the effort. There's another reason, though, too. There's many among my colleagues who stand with me. They, in general, agree what I'm trying to promote, what I'm trying to do. And I feel were I not to complete the final part of the trilogy, that I would be abandoning them. And I cannot do that. There were two other motivations for finishing this. Events which occurred during the last month. And I've decided for this collection of reasons that I will deliver this final talk, Footprints on the Sands of Time. The first of the two events, it occurred in June. The Taiwanese Ministry of Education announced that according to a program that they refer to as the Sprout program, which is to help promote innovation in academia and in research, scholarly research, that they were awarding TMU, Taipei Medical University, a grant to develop a research center on brain and consciousness translational research. Now, for the last 11 years, I've been promoting brain and consciousness research at TMU. And for the last 7 years, I've been promoting brain and consciousness translational research at TMU. So why would I be unhappy about this situation? The reason is quite simple. The people in charge of the program don't know what brain and consciousness is. The people in charge of the program, they have never implemented, designed, no experience with brain and consciousness translational investigations. And the third reason is that the money which was delivered to TMU by the Ministry of Education has not been spent on brain and consciousness translational research. These things, needless to say, they don't make me happy. Now, I should add, I'm not naive. I know that it's commonplace in the world to take somebody else's work and then use that as a cover for some kind of application that you're submitting to make it more likely that your application will be approved. I also know that politics enters into almost every walk of life. So these things do not surprise me, although they do make me angry. But at first, I had thought to forget it, not even bother to mention it, just let it go at that. The second event that occurred, and this was only a few days ago, I was included in an email which revealed a decision that the research institute that I founded, the Brain and Consciousness Research Center, was to be closed effective July 31st. Now, why does this matter? Why is it important? Throughout all of Taipei Medical University, including the 4 hospitals which are operated by Taipei Medical University, not one of them does brain and consciousness translational research. The institute, the center that I founded, has been conducting translational research on brain and consciousness, focusing on vegetative state, already having included close to 100 patients in very thorough examinations over the past 7 years. And we've already evaluated and assessed more than 200 patients throughout all of Taiwan. Many of them I evaluated myself. We already have that start. So the irony is that although TMU now claims in neuroscience its area of expertise is brain and consciousness translational research, but the only institute within the TMU system that actually does that work is now being closed, effective July 31, 2023. What is especially troubling about this situation is that the Brain and Consciousness Research Center, it pays for itself. For the last 11 years, I've been constantly writing grants, large and small, so that we're able to accumulate enough money to promote this research throughout all corners and quarters of Taiwan. We've also been lucky to have kind-hearted benefactors who've donated in excess of $750,000 US to support our research, trying to improve diagnosis, prognosis, and therapy for these patients. And yet, despite this, even with the realization that we're not going to try to compete with anyone else for the Ministry of Education money, they're closing us down. Although I am the founder of the research center, what happens to me is completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter at all. What does matter is that we live in a world where vegetative patients, more properly referred to as unresponsive wakefulness syndrome patients, patients who suffer from a disorder of consciousness, are too often misdiagnosed. The clinicians have too much difficulty in rendering an accurate prognosis, and there's no common, widespread, useful therapy for the treatment of their illnesses. Our research team is certainly not perfect. We have our flaws, we've made our mistakes, but I am the party who is the solely responsible for those flaws and those mistakes. We have an excellent team, the best in Taiwan. Neurologists, neurosurgeons, radiologists, nuclear medicine, neuroscientists with expertise in MRI, PET, EEG. There is no medical school in Taiwan, there is no hospital in Taiwan that is better equipped to deal with patients who suffer from disorders of consciousness, including those who have been dubbed vegetative. Our goals from the very beginning have been to try to provide maximum understanding of those patients who have been diagnosed with this condition in Taiwan. The second goal is a much more ambitious one. If we are able to have a significant breakthrough, the idea has always been, don't apply for a patent. If we actually have better ways to diagnose, more accurate means of rendering prognoses, and effective therapies, we want to give them for free to all of humanity. What matters most, of course, are the patients and the people who love them. But there's another issue, which is, what's the appropriate term? Complex. You see, we have all those funds in donation in excess of $750,000 US. That money was donated to Taiwan's Ministry of Health and Welfare, Shuanghe Hospital, and the Brain and Consciousness Research Center. This is a little list explaining the purpose and the intent of the fund. It's deliberately for this research center and for this line of research. There is nothing about this which is unclear. So the question now is, it's donated to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, Shuanghe Hospital, and Brain and Consciousness Research Center. You eliminate this unit, then what happens to the money? Now, 4, trying to choose the most non-provocative term to describe the situation. 4 interesting events have occurred. First, in November of last year, so November of 2022, 8 months ago, the center applied to use a small portion of that money for the research. That application is still hung up in the bureaucracy fully 8 months later. No completion of the accounting procedures has been accomplished. The second issue is that even though I'm the founder, and there's no obligation or commitment to me that they have to discuss with me the final disposition, but one might expect that as a matter of politeness or respect, or at least given that I'm the person who best understands the original intent of the center, that they might be willing to discuss with me the disposition of the funds. But they are not. The third is that even though many months ago I tried to seek an appointment in order to discuss this possibility, what would happen, I was told that upper management is too busy. And yet after they announced the elimination of the research center, they rushed to an appointment to meet with the major benefactor, the person who donated the most money. And the fourth thing, which let's just say concerns me, in the email that I received, I was told that they would offer me a position as a consultant, paying me $650 per month for an indeterminate amount of time. Allow me to begin with the fourth. Not in the legal sense, I'm not qualified to comment, but it feels like just a bribe. Take the money and walk away. Almost as though that they saw that my soul was on sale under an installment plan, $650 per month. Just take it and go. To me, this is the equivalent of 30 pieces of silver. I do believe that they have their version of events, and they would describe what has transpired differently than I am doing now. Certainly, they're well connected. They have a large secretarial pool. They have experts in public relations. They have legal advisors. They've got a large team of people who can present their side of the story. I only have myself, and my only obligation is to tell the truth as well as I am able. Confess to you that I have been tempted to just take the money and walk away. But each time I think of the love that is represented by our benefactors' donations, each time I think of the sacrifices that have been made by our clinical team and our basic scientist researchers, and each time I think of the countless patients that we have been working with. One young girl who was abandoned as hopeless, that we later learned that she was merely locked in, that she's able to communicate with us in vivid detail about her surrounding environment, like a slow digital computer, moving her eyes upward for yes, downward for no. Another one quite frankly, my favorite member of our research team, a neurologist, but I cannot tell you his name because he's a very shy and a very humble man. We have one patient who has almost no prefrontal cortex to speak of. And yet, this neurologist, he noticed that rather like the young girl I just mentioned, he's able to communicate with his fingers using 1 for yes and 2 for no. Not only that, his capacity for mental calculation, he had formerly studied in an area where mental calculation is beneficial, is far superior to most people that I know. And he's also capable of abstract thinking and making rather complex inferences. I could go through a long list of the patients that we deal with. These are just 2 of the many. And whenever I think of their families, because they are not vegetables as the vernacular would typically have it, they're people. They have husbands, they have wives, they have children, they have parents, these people who love them. Each time I think of them, I know that I cannot take the money and walk away and remain silent. We do not live for ourselves. We live for others. Lin Fengfei, my old friend, after 35 years, I finally realized something. You're a damn fool. Foolish person. But if the world did not have fools like you, the world would never get better. I don't know whether I should curse you or whether I should thank you. But I've been a fool for more than 35 years. Not as good as you have been. Not nearly. But one of my hopes, one of the reasons for recording this talk, is that I hope that there's another fool out there somewhere. Someone who has the ability to pick up the torch. Someone with much more ability than me. The capacity to push forward the study on vegetative state, because there are so many people that are in a desperate situation along with their family members, and they need help. We live in a world where we wait desperately for fools like Lin Fengfei. I hope one steps forward now. The rest of the talk, as it proceeds from here, was as originally prepared. I've tried a little bit to understand why I'm doing this and why I've done a few other things in life. Insofar as I can tell, it's well expressed by an Irish author, Frank O'Connor. He wrote that as a boy, he and his friends would explore the countryside. And when they came to a wall that seemed too high or too dangerous, an obstacle that would put an end to their explorations, they took off their hats and they tossed them over the wall. After tossing their hats over the wall, they had no other choice but to follow them because they liked those hats for reasons that I don't fully understand. Only after climbing the wall then, the wall that they thought was dangerous, could their explorations continue. The point is that when you are most afraid, when you don't know what to do or how to choose, I recommend that you throw your hat over the wall. Taiwan's situation is precarious, but I maintain it's not hopeless. The reason our situation is precarious is obvious to anyone and everyone. But why do I say it is hopeful? Hope derives from people who set an example who are able to imagine better futures and do more than just talk. They actively set about finding ways to improve the world around them, and they resist temptations to surrender to fatigue, frustration, and failure. If they fail, they try again. If they fail a second time, they try yet again. A third, it doesn't matter. They persevere nonetheless. Taiwan has many people like this. Let's say they're fools. Fools like Lin Fengfei. But why am I speaking of Taiwan in general when the focus of this talk is Taipei Medical University in particular? The reason is that hope is not inspired by abstractions and probably not by words, at least not words spoken by me. It is inspired by the work of real people encountering real problems. I speak of Taiwan and Taipei Medical University simultaneously because TMU is the place that I know best, where real people are doing real things. And because I see Taipei Medical University as a microcosm of Taiwan, it is the people we encounter in everyday life, in our work life, ordinary people who are hopeful despite hardship. These are the people who at least have a chance, the capacity to leave footprints on the sands of time. William Blake wrote, "To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." We don't see heaven itself, but we do see wildflowers. We don't see hope itself, but we do see the actions of imaginative people, fools, in this world. Taipei Medical University recently announced the selection of its new president. In what might be a surprise to some people, I too was a candidate. My candidacy was rejected. But I do offer my heartfelt congratulations to the candidate who was selected. In fact, I regard him as a friend. What follows, as I said in my second wildfire talk, is a list of recommendations for how to enter the future. I hope they will be understood as sincere attempts to be constructive in a way that is idealistic, but not delusional. The single most important task for the president of the university is to inspire. To inspire is just another way of saying to give reason to believe that the world, at least that portion that we inhabit, can become a better place. To accomplish this is to give hope. For a university, indeed probably for any place of occupation, it is not enough that people work, receive a paycheck, and go home. Universities need to create meaning for the university as a whole and for the persons who work here. In order to accomplish this, idealistic goals and practical means to achieve those goals must be established. Neither the Ministry of Education, the National Science and Technology Council, nor the Department of Health and Welfare can provide inspirational goals or strategies to achieve those goals. In fact, in general, it's not wise to look to government bureaucracies as a source of hope. But how can a university president inspire? The guiding principle should be idealism without illusions. Only idealists seek to make the world a better place. But an idealist who inhabits a world of illusions or delusions, who is unwilling to do the hard work and endure inevitable frustrations, who is unwilling to sacrifice, will achieve nothing. There is a price to be paid for being idealistic and hopeful. Only those willing to pay that price have a chance to succeed. Only those willing to pay that price have the ability to inspire others. Adhering to the principle of idealism without illusions. One of the first steps is that delusional thinking should stop. One clear goal for the university, an ideal, indeed a universal challenge for medical universities, is the integration of artificial intelligence with medicine. The ideal of maximizing this integration is a challenge that can inspire people to great achievement. Hope for a better Taipei Medical University and better healthcare for in Taiwan, indeed better healthcare for everyone on the planet. But the reality is that this university currently lacks this capability. To think otherwise is delusional, because artificial intelligence in medicine is an ideal worth pursuing. Therefore, Taipei Medical University's first step into the frontier of 2023 should be to establish an international committee comprising experts from MIT, Stanford, and Carnegie Mellon, Tsinghua University in Taiwan, National Taiwan University in Taiwan, Jiaoda Yangming University in Taiwan as well. And this committee then to assess what needs to be done and how we need to transform Taipei Medical University in order to make progress toward this goal. This should be given high priority. It should be handled quickly, and we should begin the process recognizing that, among other things, we'll need to recruit top talent. This is not the sort of thing that can be done haphazardly. More generally, we need to focus on the types of trends that are predictable and plan accordingly. We need to anticipate the future far better than we do now. Predictable events comprise demographic change and its effects on the future of the student population. Yet again, in the first half of 2023, Taiwan's birth rate declined. Another problem, the slow pace of urban renewal. No matter where you go, it's not counted in months or years, it's counted in decades. A third, this is particular to Taiwan, public universities will continue to have better benefits and retirement packages than private universities. Fourth, in Taiwan anyway, tech companies are more profitable than is the medical industry. A fifth, the main campus of the university is near 101 that many in the international community might be familiar with. It's a highly prized cosmopolitan location, but all of the rest of the colleges have been shifted to put it politely, a community that is not nearly as cosmopolitan, not nearly as appealing to the international community. Just one large building in the middle of a crowded neighborhood. Another factor that we need to face directly. Certain programs, certain institutes, they are attractive to students and their parents, but others are not. Plans should be based upon these factors, even if the facts reveal truths that are not convenient. Another problem that we need to confront, and this is related to the separation of the university into two campuses, is that the more popular, the main campus, that's where the medical colleges are located. But that's just a college. It's not a university. The rest of the colleges have been shifted to the, let us say, a non-cosmopolitan, with rather bad traffic, an unpopular location in Taiwan. It'll be difficult for them in that location to attract students and to retain talent. Also, they tend to be rather cramped together without sufficient space to truly develop. Now, if they are left there alone, as the condition is now, they will wither. So some change does need to be made. I previously said that the division of Taipei Medical University into two campuses was an unforced mistake. The best solution is to return the colleges that were moved away nearby, to return them adjacent to the main campus. But if there is no willingness to make that effort, then at least the attractiveness of the new campus should be upgraded. Upgrades based on actual circumstances. But how can this be done? Frankly, there are no easy answers. But there might be a few things to keep in mind when brainstorming. For example, within about a 3 to 5 year period, there will be a new mass transit line completed. Still some distance from this campus, but can we find innovative ways to take advantage of this transportation enhancement? Also, there's a community athletic facility that already exists nearby this campus. Can we seek maybe discount membership or other benefits for our faculty and staff? Also, with the campus moving into this neighborhood, local and small businesses have benefited. Likewise, property owners who have seen values increase. Can we take advantage of this opportunity to virtually expand our campus in ways that are mutually beneficial, perhaps including various types of decorative ways of upgrading the neighborhood, the roads nearby? Might there be other things that can be done, attractive markings or whatever, to at least enhance the overall atmosphere of the local community? In any case, we really need to sit down with the new Taipei city government and try to find ways to improve the neighborhood. Since we are here, we should be good citizens of this community and try to work with them. What can we do working with them that is mutually beneficial? There's other things that we can do just within the university. Just simple things. Try to make it more green. We don't even have bicycle racks. Other things are more expensive. We should have, for example, properly insulated windows. We don't have that now. These are things which are fundamental. They'll cost money, but it's worth the investment. Of course, this is a university, so the campus itself is not what matters most. Just as with medicine, so too with universities, the serious work of serious people does not involve cosmetics. The common goal of all universities should be a loathing of ignorance. In that spirit, then, we should be certain that the new campus building is filled with constantly curious seekers of truth, the best scientists we can find, a few philosophers, and maybe even 1 or 2 poets. The current administrative system also needs to be reformed, in particular the structure of decision-making. The current sequential processing model, whereby most decisions are made by one or a small group of persons, is inefficient and risks the biases of narrow self-interest. We need to adopt a decentralized model, leaving only the most important decisions for the president to make. And those decisions should only be made after detailed consultation with people who have relevant expertise, as well as a mix of personality types, the bolder and the more cautious, people who think in the long term, people who think in the near term, people who are more analytic, and people who are more imaginative. The president needs to be 1/3 mathematician, 1/3 worldly manager, and 1/3 poet. As for administrative meetings, minimal time should be given to routine reports. Instead, each meeting should have an agenda that addresses specific problems. Attendees are then encouraged to be brutally honest and candid in their assessments and recommendations. We need to become more efficient. One important step in that direction has already begun. Change from Annual to biennial evaluations. It's a good idea. More should be done in this direction, but the administration does deserve to be applauded for taking this first step. Progress of any kind should be recognized and encouraged. Going forward, however, the efficiency principle should be applied much more broadly. Reduce the number of meetings held, reduce the number of reports filled out, and find more IT solutions for routine work. In bureaucracy, usually less is more. And since the bureaucracy is being streamlined, the president should spend much more personal time with individual and small groups of faculty, clinicians, administrators, and students. In such settings, the president will gain a deeper and more accurate understanding of the university and its hospitals, both the good things and the bad. Also in line with the efficiency principle, we should work in the direction of cutting the staff in half. After that, we double the salaries of those who are retained. In other words, identify those who are talented and diligent and compensate them accordingly and properly, while balancing the budget by reducing the total number of staff. Here too, less is more. With regard to the administrative staff, while reducing their number and increasing their salaries, we need to revise how they are regarded and treated within the university. Their importance is surely equal to that of any faculty member and any clinician. A talented, respected team of administrative personnel are essential to the functioning of the university and our 4 affiliated hospitals. Faculty, clinicians, and administrators are all important, equally so. Far more thought needs to be given to identifying projects that bring enduring, sustainable value to the university, the country, and humanity. In addition to artificial intelligence in medicine, which is already a universal goal, since we cannot do everything well, we need to choose wisely. Just what is our focus? In what areas can we be both distinctive and achieve excellence? After choosing, we then need to develop strategies for encouragement and promotion of those projects, while assigning responsibility to competent, dedicated personnel. Allow me to take the example that I know best. More than 1 decade ago, it was already clear that brain and consciousness is among the most important and challenging of scientific problems. Moreover, it's uniquely relevant to medicine, all components of medicine. So the first thing, going back 11 years, it was a 3-year nationwide consciousness project was implemented, in which 54 students were supported throughout all parts of Taiwan. Step 2. Our research center, the Brain and Consciousness Research Center that I mentioned earlier, was established. Step 3. Fundraising began, equipment purchases began, establishment of laboratories began, negotiation with various companies to release research proper software began. Fourth, systematic recruitment, international recruitment of highly competent personnel followed. The tools without the people are useless pieces of lead. Fifth, an international conference on consciousness, specifically higher order thought, was sponsored in order to help focus attention on what we were doing or trying to do. Sixth, the Ministry of Education was lobbied in order to permit establishment of an internationally oriented brain and consciousness graduate institute, both a master's and a PhD program. Seventh, a nationwide clinical trial that addresses the most important brain and consciousness translational problem, disorders of consciousness, was begun. These efforts, after 11 years of work, they resulted in the formal recognition by Taiwan's Ministry of Education with the establishment of our Sprout program, Brain and Consciousness Translational Center. The first thing that should be obvious about this example is that it takes time. It involves many components and it requires determination. But these three conditions apply to anything that is done well, anything that has enduring, sustainable value. It should also be clear that even now, our brain and consciousness investigations are only at the beginning. It took 10 or 11 years of persistent effort just to get to this point. But it always needs to be borne in mind that these results can be destroyed by just a few months of carelessness, laziness, or incompetent management. To excel at brain and consciousness translational research will require yet more effort and extremely talented personnel. Concerning optimal use of Taipei Medical University's existing resources, as we consider the future, we need to reinvestigate possibilities for use of land that we already own near the main campus. Environmental concerns and campus development are not mutually exclusive. This will require negotiations with several agencies of the government. But Taipei Medical University both has the opportunity to further develop its main campus, while at the same time serving as a model for Taiwan as how to smoothly integrate environmental protection with appropriate and beneficial land use. As for strategic planning, we need to take into consideration assessment criteria used by organizations, international organizations like QS, Times Higher Education, and others. Also, within the country of Taiwan, the Ministry of Education, the National Science and Technology Council, we do need to consider the criteria that they set. But these criteria change every year. Therefore, it is foolish that our long-term strategies lean so heavily on those criteria. The goals of each among those institutions are too easily influenced by political or commercial interests and simply fads. So we should not imitate others. Our goal should be to serve as a model for others. A great university should not be a follower. It should be a leader. That thing that I know best, brain and consciousness translational medicine, that type of investigation, is just one example of an area in which we can lead, not just nationally, but internationally. As for student recruitment, once again, in the first half of 2023, Taiwan's birth rate declined. The optimal solution is that Taiwan transform itself into a society that truly welcomes immigrants and accords them full rights of citizenship. But that transformation will take time. Meanwhile, we need to recruit internationally. But the strategy of paying students to come is not sustainable. We either need to develop alternative revenue streams specifically to support students, or we need to begin eliminating programs wherein costs outweigh benefits. As for faculty hiring, it should always be borne in mind that this is a 30-plus year investment. It should never be carried out in a haphazard manner, and it should never be done so as to solve short-term problems. Each new hire must be rigorously assessed, and recruitment should be formalized and international, never restricted to local media. For each new faculty hire, we should always ask the question, do we hope this person will remain here for a long time? Whenever we hire in a hurry, in desperation to fill a position, that is a clear sign that we are in trouble of retaining good talent. Precisely because finding good faculty members is so difficult, there is something we need to keep in mind. We need to redesign faculty recruitment as to make it more faster, and more flexible. I have seen too many talented, highly coveted applicants. They go elsewhere, while we dither for months. In fact, in some cases, we've even dithered for years. There's no reason for those people to sit and wait for us. Flexible, efficient recruitment is essential to building a stronger faculty. As for faculty retention, the problem we face is more particular to Taiwan. Too many people here are recruited away from us by the public universities. This creates a vacuum of high-quality young talent. Without young talent, we have no foundation for constructive growth into the future. Even if we cannot compete with public institutions on their benefits packages, at least we can do more to create an environment in which young faculty can flourish by focusing more on their own work freely, unburdened by the demands of senior faculty or administrators. It then follows that most top-down research collaborations, including those with some universities with whom we have long-standing relationships, should stop. For one reason, they tend to be expensive, but not productive. For another, young, talented, energetic faculty have their own ideas, their own collaborators, and their own capabilities. Emphasis should be put on nurturing organic, bottom-up collaborations. Another problem which is special to Taiwan, where there are more places in universities than there are university-age students. Universities here will continue to close or merge with other institutions. 3 more closed just this year, and numerous departments within universities have been closed. We should not keep our head in the sand. We should be proactive in considering possible mergers. Tsinghua University is the optimal target because they already have a well-developed core of humanities and social science, which we do not have. Plus, they are excellent in engineering. We need them because with them we can aggressively promote artificial intelligence in medicine, and we will not need to spend money on important but less popular fields in the humanities and the social sciences, as these are already robustly developed at Tsinghua. And they need us because of our good location near Taipei 101, and also they need us because of our vast hospital network. As for students, the single most important thing, certainly in a university that emphasizes healthcare, is the necessity of becoming an autodidact. Medical science changes too quickly, so only autodidacts are suited to this field. In this generation, being an autodidact is far easier than it was even just 10 years ago. Free online courses offered by the best universities on the planet are available 24 hours each day. Passively sitting in the classroom, in a lecture hall, is not well suited to healthcare students, nor indeed to the future of study in any field at all. The role of faculty should be to increase vastly, greatly, their interaction with students, not to lecture at them. The world has changed. We need to embrace the change. We need to keep in mind that evolution does not stop. We should emulate Lewis Carroll's The Red Queen. Never just stand in place. In fact, as the rankings reveal, TMU plateaued several years ago, and in some areas we've already begun to regress. A wise president ignores praise because it leads to complacency and takes criticism seriously. Criticism is the basis and the motivation for proper action. We need always to be preparing for tomorrow, and we need to be flexible and capable of quick changes. Evolution truly is brutal. It doesn't care about faculty or alumni sentimentality. We need to see this fact clearly, and we need to realize that, at least in the current environment, competition among universities in Taiwan is non-cooperative in the sense described by John Nash. Although the interplay among universities in Taiwan is not zero-sum, neither is it win-win. To believe otherwise is to be delusional. Recently, we have been discussing the establishment of an explicit code that expresses our core values. This is a foolish waste of time at best. At worst, it's dangerous. It's wasteful because we already have a system for dealing with academic ethics, even though that's not well designed, nor is it well implemented. But at least it addresses academia-specific problems like plagiarism and data falsification. For non-academic issues, Taiwan already has a constitution, a legislature, and a judiciary. The reason why trying to establish such an explicit code is dangerous is that it creates the opportunity for abuse. Uses such a code to punish those who might dissent from the views of the board of directors or the administrative team. Of course, not every potential problem is covered by law or codes of academic integrity. But as an institution of higher learning, what we should do is remind all members of our community, and this includes students, faculty, clinicians, administrators, the board of directors too, that the content of our character is what we choose. Every day we make choices, what to think about and how to behave. It is these choices, through these choices, accumulated over many years, that we become who we are. Some choices are consistent with the pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty. Others are not. Each member of our community should aspire to be an exemplar of the former. And everyone over the age of 18 is responsible for their own face. They're responsible for their own behavior. Not long ago, I was asked by Human Resources at Taipei Medical University to prepare a short talk, a sentimental statement about my time at TMU. I very briefly considered something along the lines of, it's a poem from about 1 century ago, written by a Chinese poet, Xu Zhimo. The English title is called Farewell to Cambridge. Some of the key lines are, lightly I leave, just as lightly I came. Quietly I leave, just as quietly I came. But I thought people who asked me to give that sentimental talk, they don't get me. They don't understand me. I did not enter lightly, nor do I have any desire to leave quietly. On the contrary, I've tried to behave rambunctiously so as to awaken people from slumber and complacency. I do hope my behavior has not been for the sake of personal vanity. It's intended to combat ignorance and promote the search for truth. But it would be presumptuous of me to judge. I should leave it for others to interpret my motivations. For me to interpret them would be unseemly. Allow me to be clear. I do understand that making speeches, making suggestions is easier than doing the actual work. Talking is easier than doing. What I hope is not that those who will lead TMU into the future will agree with me on every detail, but at the very least, I hope they will aspire to leave footprints on the sands of time. If that is not the aspiration, everything the university does is wasted effort, and there's no purpose to our existence. Life is filled with junctures at which we have to make difficult decisions. We have to choose. You can choose that which requires independent thought, or you can choose that which allows you to feel comfortable among your colleagues and associates. When you have to choose independent thought. Or you can choose that which is easy or that which is hard. When you have to choose that which is hard. You can choose that which seems safe or that which you are afraid to do. By all means, choose that which you are afraid to do. Throw your hat over the wall. I desire excellence for Taiwan and for TMU. Moral and intellectual excellence. But a precondition for excellence is that we need to avoid being sanctimonious. We need to avoid being hypocritical. We need to avoid telling ourselves untruths about ourselves and face up to reality. Only if we succeed in doing this can we then strive to make our lives sublime and, departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Even if our efforts result in personal failure, after all, we are just fools. At least we leave footprints, something that endures, something to inspire those who follow after us. At our best, we leave behind something that gives them hope.